Hey everyone, this is the Real Q Storm. So today I went to Wizard World in Philadelphia and I attended one of the panels. It was led by Danny Fingeroth, and the panel was entitled Batman v Superman: What Went Wrong and What Went Right. Now, anyone who knows me, you know that I think a lot of things went wrong with that film. But I went there with an open mind. I was hoping that they might give me legitimate reasons why the film had some good points to it. But as you'll quickly see in this series of three clips, the panel took a decidedly different turn. Take a look.
We can hear from you guys in a little while, but it seems that people were not satisfied with the way the movie handled the confrontation between the two. And I think every superhero versus superhero battle is going to be contrived to some degree. They're essentially the same. Even though they don't have exactly the same personality, the same values, they're on the same side. So what was it that went wrong? If you think it did?
Well, that question you'd asked me, then I don't know if we're talking about the relationship, about would they be buddies or not.
Yeah.
It's a lot of it's going to depend on circumstances. And man, did they have to get manipulated, and then Lex would magically know the right thing to manipulate. They just synced up with everything else they were doing at the same time.
Martha.
It's a whole lot of it. Why did he do that? Because plot.
And then they had that moment. Has everybody seen it? If you haven't,
Why you're here.
There was the Martha moment.
There's the Martha moment.
What were they thinking?
They were thinking
This is a brilliant thing nobody has ever pointed out in 76 years.
Nobody's ever pointed out that the writers on these two different series were unimaginative and coming up with names
Well, and Dick Grayson's mom, Mary, is close.
And May is just one letter off, Peter Parker.
But these characters, they both, at their heart, one of the very important things that's been with them throughout is hope that the human race deserves for them to look out for them. They've always had that in common, as well as, especially against spelling, but they look a lot alike. But no, it's always been there. Batman, he knows there are horrible, terrible things in the world, but he does have enough faith in humanity in general that he feels that they're worth fighting for and sticking up for. And Superman has stronger faith in humanity in general.
And I think that in the movie, I think they weaken this faith that the heroes have. Superman gives up at one point, basically. He says, oh no, they're all against me. But the humanity doesn't think much of him. Yes, they did, thanks to Zack Snyder, we did have all this devastation in the Man of Steel movie as a result of the fight between Superman and Zod. But nonetheless, and Batman is all upset about this. But he's blaming Superman when you could also look at the same evidence and say, well, wait a minute, but Superman is the one who stopped Zod. And we need, Superman is obviously on Earth's side, and we need him as a guardian against any other bad Kryptonians who are out there. And whereas it sort of fits the comic version of Batman, that, yeah, Batman is going to have contingency plans in case Superman goes bad, this version of Batman who just assumes that Superman has to be stopped doesn't feel right. And for that matter, Batman has become, in this movie, has become much more bitter than we're used to seeing it. There's one thing that really struck me about this Batman is at one point they show how he's got this sort of this bat emblem on his fist, and when he punches you, he leaves a mark. This is actually swiped from the Phantom, what the Phantom did with his skull thing. But it's like, so Batman is basically leaving permanent scars on his victims. I mean, what's going on here? When did he become this sadistic?
No movie Batman has been smart enough. We don't tend to see the detective. Even at his smartest, he's still not as smart as Batman the Animated Series Batman. That Batman can solve things in half an hour, maybe a two-parter, but he's going to get solved pretty fast. That plays to his strength. Movie Batman, well, they got to take 2.5 hours, and just not be that. Batman Begins, there's a point where he's trying to be the detective, and then Scarecrow shows up and sets the fire. And that's the closest we come to actually seeing him play detective in the films. That detective quality of Batman has been missing along the way. and be analytical instead of just reacting emotionally. Batman has a lot of anger. He has very strong feelings, but he's also always been into channeling them constructively and controlling them.
Well, it's also when the characters are selectively, willfully stupid. When just stopping to chat for a minute could have averted the whole thing. Let me just explain to you why I did that. And I mean, you can do that, and we've all read, and some of us have read edited comic books that do that. But you try not to. I mean, that's when you get to these two guys, right? In say the other movie of the summer, these two guys. I don't know if they have the most airtight reason for disagreement, but at least they listen to each other, and either they can. It seems to me that maybe is why people responded better to this.
Well, we understood it on both sides. They weren't being manipulated by. They weren't being manipulated. Say the world's being manipulated. The Cap sees that immediately. And Tony's going his route on his views about letting them get regulated before the bad guys messing stuff. But their own feelings about the initial issue, they form themselves. They form their own ideas, and it's been earned over the course of a lot of movies. And we also know they're both kind of right. In Batman v Superman, nobody's kind of right.
And also, what makes this movie, Cap and Iron Man stronger is that you get the sense that these guys are friends and allies who have a falling out over these ideological issues that they actually, and you actually see a debate over these issues about the political, the moral implications of the question. I mean, basically, at the heart of Batman and Superman and Civil War, you have the same sort of conflict. Should our superheroes going beyond the law? Should they be controlled? But Batman and Superman just sort of raise the issues and then as excuses for the anger of the antagonists, whereas Civil War movie actually explores the issues in depth and makes the audience think, well, which side is more right than the other.
Now, in a certain sense, the movies, right, are both moving chess pieces in order to get these really cool characters punching each other. I mean, right? That's
yeah, eventually, yeah.
Eventually, I mean, but as you said, it's the way they get there, and so I mean, what do you think? But once they got there, were they equally sad? I mean, was there cathartic enjoyment in seeing Batman and Superman going at it and?
Not for me, because I don't like either of the movie versions of these characters. I don't find them appealing. I don't see why they have to fight. As you say, why couldn't they've talked this out? And also, I really didn't believe the fight. Doing a fight between Batman and Superman, and there have been many attempts over the years in the comics to do this, and it's very hard to do because why doesn't Superman win in like 2 seconds? And all through this fight, I'm thinking, so what is Batman's arm made out of? And he said it could stand up to him for more than 2 seconds. It's like I could never believe, there's no kryptonite involved, there's no red solar radiation. I don't understand how this fight is working.
It's not a fight. I mean, you touched on this. It's not a fight everybody always wanted to see. Godzilla versus King Kong. People go, ooh, yeah, I get that. Jason versus Freddy. What exactly? But yes, you get that. Batman versus Superman. Why?
Yeah, it's not even like Thor versus Hulk. It's like, which one is stronger? Well, in the case of Superman versus Batman, which one is stronger. But again, it's like the history of these characters is that they should be allies. So it seems wrong for them to be fighting unless you're like Frank Miller and you hate one of them.
But Frank Miller, even with that, the conflict between Superman and Batman in there's a sense of history building to it within that world that
Within that
world, he's got a sense of history to it. And
he's got a reason why it happened.
And Civil War, there's a history to these characters. Batman and Superman, there's not a history. The conflict hasn't been earned for us emotionally.
And yet it's within the power of good writers. You don't have to have 100 movies allegory without getting into like partisan jockeying? Do you think just inevitably,
Another thing that bothers me is that, I mean, Superman in the movie is upset at Batman for violating people's rights when in his fight against crime, but that is never really settled. It's like hearing about, oh, your mom's named Martha too. That settles the problem. Oh, so I guess it's all right for you to beat up on criminals and daily kill them.
Well, that was a philosophical argument, is that your mom's named Martha.
Yeah, that is the equivalent of philosophical argument, whereas again, in Civil War, I think anybody who goes to that, who sees that movie, is going to leave the movie and probably talking to friends they went with and debating whether Tony or Steve was right.
Yeah, the filmmaker says that, why do you have so many people just team Tony or team Iron Man or team Cap? And it's more complicated than that. And we see that, we get that. I've noticed an overwhelming number of people are Team Cap. And I was wondering, is that just my timeline on Twitter? I think it does seem to be more people are saying, but are they really for wanting these figures running around uncontrolled, or is it that they like Steve Harvey?